that light? Hey guys, today I wanted to discuss the basics of macros. So since releasing my macros recipe book, I've been getting asked quite a few commonly asked questions in regards to tracking macros. So I wanted to cover all of those for you today. So what I have done here is I've written down a few of the most commonly asked questions so that I can make sure that I do cover everything that everybody is asking. So macros are basically the breakdown of calories. So you've got carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And then of course you can break it down even further into the micronutrients, which we covered in a vlog earlier on in my YouTube series with Nathan. So if you are interested in fiber intake, that type of thing, please do refer back to that vlog. So today what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to touch on the top headline questions that I have been getting. So the first thing you need to do when you are tracking macros is work out your required calories. Now we've tried to make this as easy as possible by putting this in the bod. Now inside the how to use section of the bod, it explains it in more depth, step by step. So my first suggestion for everybody is to have a really good read of that, as well as utilizing the bod calculator on our bod website. That'll give you the exact macros that you need for your body. Now a lot of people are getting freaked out with the number that the macro calculator is giving you. Now please remember, food is your friend. So don't think that by eating 1,200 calories throughout the entire week and then blowing out on the weekend, that's going to be more beneficial for you. So a lot of women are really scared to eat more food, especially around that, over that 2,000 calorie mark, people start freaking out. Now you've got to remember, if you're eating say 1,200 calories all week, and then you get into the weekend and your partner surprises you with a date and you go out for dinner and you have a couple of wines, you have dessert, and it ends up being say a 4,000 or 5,000 calorie day, which if you live on the Gold Coast and you're consuming donut time, wines, things like that, it will be. So remember that those calories that are consumed on the weekend would be averaged out over the entire week, and you're probably actually already consuming that. However, it's the consistency that is required. So you need to make sure that you're hitting the exact macros every single day and being consistent with it. So that brings me into another question that I do get asked. If you have, say, 6 grams of carbs left over or 6 grams of fat left over at the end of the day, is it important that you do try and get those down to 0? Yes. So I have a few little cheat sheets that I like to call it, that I give to our clients. So say, for example, if you don't have much carbs left for the day, but you do have a lot of fats, macadamia nuts are just the bomb for fats. If you have a lot of carbs left, but no fats, I would advise you to eat fruit. And a lot of people get freaked out eating fruit at night time, but I promise you, try and get to 0 as many days as you possibly can without breaking that streak, and you will see results if you are consistent. Now, I like to tell people to stick to their macros as closely as possible for about 3 to 6 weeks before changing them. It does allow that time for your body to be able to adapt and to really get used to those changes. When you are consistent, you will see the results. Now, it's incredibly important that you don't cheat yourself. So if you're sticking to your calories for say 3 days and then you're binging and then you're not under eating the next day and you're not consistent, you will not see results. Now, the only person that you are cheating is yourself. So remember that if you are using a flexible dieting approach, it is important that you have become responsible because you want to make the change. Now, a lot of people say, but I didn't track it, so it kind of didn't happen. Or they'll have a sneaky little treat here and they don't track it. The only person that that's going to affect is yourself, because you will not get the results. So if you are not having a consistent week, stay on your macros, because you do need to stay consistent in order to be able to see the changes in your body from your food. Now, the next thing that I do want to discuss is tracking. So a lot of people are scared to start tracking because they think that it's going to be really time consuming, or that they feel it's very daunting. Now, I reckon within 2 to 3 weeks of tracking, it is a 5-minute a day process. It is very, very quick once you get your head around it. Now, a few key things that I do like to suggest is everything needs to be tracked raw weight, raw, uncooked, always. If you are tracking any sort of vegetable or food, you do need to search for the USDA and it has a blue tick next to it, meaning that it's certified. So So if it's certified and it's USDA, that is the correct one that you should be tracking. The other key thing that I like to add in is that if you're somebody, I'm just gonna grab whatever is on my desk. If you're somebody who likes to just quickly scan something in, often the barcode when you scan it in is not the correct nutritional information. So do make sure that you do just double check that it is as per the nutritional label and that it is inclusive of dietary fibre. And if it's not, you can just add that in yourself. So once you've got your head around tracking, all of your regular or normal foods that you consume on a daily basis will be in your MyFitnessPal, and it's super easy to be able to grab the foods in your frequently tracked foods. So it's very, very quick and very straightforward once you get your head around tracking. Now, the other thing that I absolutely love for flexible dieting is that I can plan my family's meals and they can eat the exact same meals as what I'm eating. Now, to do this, you simply go into the recipe section of MyFitnessPal. You track everything in the recipe as a raw weight. Once you've done that, you need to work out how many serves you want it to have. Now, it could be anything. However many people you've got in your house, however many serves of protein that you want to achieve. So what I do personally is that if I'm making, say, a butter chicken, I would work out if I had 800 grams of raw weight of chicken, it would be 8 serves, purely because I'd like to round it up to around 100 grams raw weight of chicken per meal. Now, if I had 12 people over my house for dinner, I can still do that and have that as 12 servings. I just need to adjust the recipe, knowing that the protein served raw weight per serve would be a little bit less than the 100 grams. So you can easily adapt and change according to what's happening. Now, for somebody like me, that is extremely, extremely important, because I could be having 4 people at my house for dinner, I could be having 10 people at my house for dinner in the drop of a hat. So I need to be able to change my lifestyle, and that works for me. So meal planning is a big thing when you are tracking. And I understand again that it can be a little bit difficult to get your head around when you're first starting out, but I give me 2 or 3 weeks and you'll have it figured out, I promise. Okay. How flexible can you be when tracking macros? So it is dependent on your goals. If you're obviously looking to compete in a competition, or you've got some really strict goals where you're wanting to lose some weight, the more strict, the more zero you get, the more consistency you get, the better your goals are obviously going to be. For everyday life, play it by ear, see how you are progressing and make sure that you're reassessing your goals. If you like to have a wine on the weekends with your friends, why don't you try and track that? Now, I'm not saying that tracking alcohol is the best way to do things, but if that's something that you really want to have in your day-to-day life, I have seen people do it before. Okay, so if you go over in one of your macros, so protein is something that I always try and get people to make sure that they get to 0. Every single day, 0 on protein, no matter what. Carbs and fats. Now, I can understand that it's very tricky to make sure that you have hit 0 on everything without going under and over, and it does take a little bit of planning and organising to make sure that you do get to 0 consistently, and that will take you a couple of weeks to get your head around. This is why it's important to plan out your day in advance so that you don't get to 9 p.m. before bed and you have 50 grams of carbs left and no fat, because you'll be eating a whole bowl of fruit in order to achieve that. So what I encourage people to do is plan out your day in advance so that you know where you're sort of sitting with your food and you know what you can eat. I have a very high calorie intake at the moment, so for me it's like I don't have to think twice about what I'm eating until I get into the later hours of the day, and then I really make sure that I'm not going over on anything or under on anything. I always try to hit 0 where possible, especially if I'm competing. If I'm not competing, I will loosely sit around 3 to 5 either way. Remember that fats has more calories per gram than what carbs does. So if you go over on your fats, you need to go under on your carbs by double. So just make sure that you're not super over, super under, as close to 0 as possible. Now, I can understand that a lot of people are saying this is not a lifestyle approach for the rest of your life. You don't want to be tracking macros. You don't want to be tracking your food. You don't want to be entering your food. And I understand that. But the best thing about tracking macros is that it allows you to know what is in your food. So when you track something, you know what carbs are in there, you know what fats are in there, you know what protein's in there. And I could pretty much plan out a whole day's food for me and be very, very close to my macros intuitively, not having to track. And that's the best part about it. I know how many grams an apple has in it of carbs. I know how much fat is in a skim milk cappuccino that I get from my coffee man. So it's like, it helps you to educate you to know what is in your food, so that it will eventually be able to get you to a point in your life where you can eat intuitively and have the desired results and outcomes that you wish for the rest of your life. So it's not only educating you as you go, but it's also giving you the results as well. Now you will notice on the BOD calculator, there's the option for a higher carb or higher fat variety for your own individual macros. Now, there's no real favoritism in that. It is about your lifestyle and your individual goals. Do you eat a higher fat diet or do you eat a higher carb diet? And it's very interesting to see how people will adapt their diets to suit their macros. However, you can adjust that from the very beginning to suit the foods that you like to eat. And I know that with a lot of vegans and vegetarians, that'll be different as well. So do make sure that you maybe track your food intuitively for the first couple of days to find out if you're more of a higher carb or higher fat type of person. Because I really truly believe that if you enjoy your food and you like what you're eating, it is a lot easier to stick to than trying to stick to something that is unachievable or something that you don't enjoy. The next thing that I have been getting asked quite a bit about is in regards to cheat days or cheat meals. Now I know that a lot of the time we do see a lot of fitness professionals dieting all week and having big blowouts on one day a week. Now, if you do have a big blowout, it averages out over the whole week. So it's not going to be ideal for you. Now, the whole idea around flexible dieting is so that you do not need to have cheat meals. Everything is tracked. So it's like you get to eat the food that you love, that you enjoy, that you really genuinely want to eat every single day without even calling it a cheat. How good is that? So it's like whatever you want to eat right now, you can have that in your day without cheating. I hope I got that across, because that is like the most mind-blowing epic diet you've ever heard about, right? I'll bow. Thanks. Now, post-comp, a lot of girls are reverse dieting. So what does the term mean, reverse dieting? So ideally, when you get your macros, we want you to stick to them as closely as possible. So get down to zero as closely as possible for around 3 to 6 weeks. Once you see your body change, then you need to assess where to go from there. If you're putting on body fat and you have been consistent, and I mean not cheating yourself, because remember what I was talking about earlier, that the only person you're cheating if you're not tracking correctly or you're not tracking everything is yourself. So if you're stick to your macros to zero for around 6 weeks and you're putting on weight, then maybe you do need to adjust your calories and macros down. This is a very rare case. In most cases, you will see that your macros and calories do increase. So reverse dieting is basically just that, reverse dieting up. So your calories will, instead of dropping, go up. Now, you will see a lot of people that maybe have just competed, starting to increase their calories. People that have just started on macros, wanting to build their metabolic capacity. So by doing that, it allows you to slowly increase your calories without putting on any body fat. And that is the ultimate goal. The goal is to increase your food to a point where if you go on holidays and you don't track, you're actually going to lose weight rather than gain it. Imagine going on holidays and coming home leaner or less weight than what you actually went away with. That's the goal, to be able to eat foods that you genuinely love without having to feel like you're starving, you're on a diet, you are restricting yourself or not able to eat all of the foods and meals with your family. So the idea behind macros is that it allows you a lifestyle option to be able to eat all of the delicious foods and recipes that you genuinely love. Now, with my macros book, you will see that every single recipe has the breakdown. Now, I have just opened to any recipe page. So you'll see the breakdown down the bottom. Now remember that every single recipe's breakdown is specific to the brands. So if you're maybe wanting to alter the recipe, adapt it, or be super specific with the macros that you're entering and tracking, it's always best to enter the recipe yourself with the brands and measurements that you use. As you can see from this recipe, it has 10 grams of fat, 12 grams of carbs, and 23.5 grams of protein. Now, as a rough guideline, I like to suggest trying to aim for around 30 grams of protein per meal. So I hope that's covered a few more of the questions that are coming through in regards to macros, how to track, and how to live a flexible dieting lifestyle. It truly has changed my life, and I hope that it changes yours too. If you want to work out your calories, macros, or a bit more information on how to track for your day-to-day life, head to thebod.com.au, and our bod calculator is available on our website now.